My name is Ian Watson. I'm the Executive Director of the American Membrane Technology Association. This one is the Envirogenics Systems Company. It was one of the earliest companies in the business in both thermal and membrane desalination. On my immediate left is Mr. Ali Kalantar, who is currently the CEO of Doosan, and I'll let Ali explain how he got from Envirogenics to Doosan. Next to Ali is Curt Keifer. Curt is currently with CDM. He's a vice president with CDM here in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. We have Hany Said. Hany, I think you preceded these guys at Envirogenics, if I remember correctly. And Hany now is with Bywater AEWT. AEWT is a company that he founded after he left AES. When did Envirogenics actually start?
Well, Envirogenics was a division of Aerojet. Again, I think Aerojet, nobody talks about Aerojet. Aerojet was a defense contractor.
Right.
And they started a division of Envirogenics, and
I think it was before that.
Was it?
BLH.
BLH, okay.
BLH
Okay.
was the original.
And they bought
That's where
BLH.
Envirogenics.
Yeah, that's Baldwin,
came.
Lymer, and Hamilton.
Right.
Right.
They
Yeah.
were the original company.
Right.
And they were they not only built locomotives, but they also built some early evaporators, did they not?
Yes.
Right.
And that's where the technology has started at
Yeah.
BLH.
Yeah.
They built like single-stage evaporators, and
Yeah.
but it was Aerojet that actually put a lot of research and development and came up with lots of ideas as it pertained to multi-stage flash technology and all that. And of course, just the evolution of Envirogenics. Envirogenics later on was sold to a company called Sogeix. Sogeix was a French company that bought Envirogenics, and Envirogenics became very important when Sogeix got the largest job in Saudi Arabia. This was Jeddah 4 project.
Right.
That was 120 MGD.
No, 50 MGD.
Was it 50 MGD?
50 MGD and 500 megawatt.
500 megawatt power plant. And the important thing is that that was a very important project for Envirogenics. Boosted the Envirogenics very high, but also at the end it was one of the reasons why Envirogenics is no longer in business.
So, I mean, a lot of now we're talking about water reuse and so forth like that as something new. But the original R&D program was to develop membrane for water reuse, for emergency use for the space program.
Now, Pine Island was built in 1975, I think?
74.
74. Did you work on that project, Hany?
I worked on that project. I remember very well when we shipped the skids and we were starting up the unit. I was up on the ladder at that time, trying to load membranes. And all of a sudden, I looked down and there's an alligator on the plants. So I remember I had to stay there for about half an hour waiting for somebody to come because I was afraid to come down.
A lot of the work that you did at Envirogenics was overseas. And when you were there, the conditions in the Middle East weren't what you would call luxurious. I can remember when I went to work for Hydronautics, I used to go down there and periodically I'd bump into Bob Kadaj at the airport or on the airplane, and he was invariably going to where I was going because there was a proposal coming out or an RFP coming out. And he had the advantage, of course, he spoke Arabic, and I didn't. So I don't think, the time that I was at Hydronautics, I don't think we ever managed to beat Envirogenics on a project in the Middle East.
I think really speaking about Envirogenics and the success of Envirogenics can be heavily attributed to Bob.
Yeah.
Bob Kadaj was there was no country that he would avoid to go to. And unfortunately, I had to tag along. We actually sold, for instance, as an example, the first MSF plant in China.
Really? I
Yes.
didn't know that.
We built the first MSF plant in China near Tianjin. It's a power station called Dagang Power Station. Bob and I, in early 80s, spent months in China. I don't know if we have been to China now. China was not what it is now. We went in there where they were still wearing the Mao clothes at the time. We built the first desalination plant for Dagang Power Station. We spent a lot of time down there, months there, and that plant is operating. We developed the projects from scratch, and we spent a lot of time explaining to them what this thing does. Explaining to them what an MSF plant is, and instill that confidence in them that this is a plant you need to buy. Because it was very important. If you're building a power station, you need the water. Without the water, that power station is not going to run. So that's the kind of thing we needed to do, and that's why it took a long time to actually get the project from start to the finish and actually get a contract signed.
When you were at Envirogenics, you got the opportunity to visit some of these remote outposts where Bob Kadaj was dragging the company to build things. Do you have any anecdotes you'd like to share with us about sharing?
Yeah, I think one of the funnier things is that we frequently would go to United Arab Emirates, and we would work on proposals. Of course, at that time, when you worked overseas, you had to have a local partner, and a certain percentage of the contract had to go to the local partner. So we would prepare the design for all the desalination equipment in the U.S., and then we'd have to go and meet with our local partner and negotiate the price.
Everything was done on a typewriter, and if you made a mistake, you had to retype the whole page.
Right.
Because a lot of the clients, if you put the whiteout on it, they thought you were trying to pull a fast trick on them, so they wouldn't accept it. So
I think those days when we used to put a proposal, I think we almost had to really do a complete design.
yes,
Because we had to price in the building, we had to price in the civil works and all that stuff.
Yes.
And,
Yeah, I remember
and to
when
be able to convince the client that, and we, Envirogenics, sold the first barge-mounted desalination plants. In another job, there was a pipeline to be built, and they needed to move the crew throughout the pipelines, and we started having to think out of the box somehow, and we started building a containerized RO that is housed in a shipping container. And it was like, you're always constantly trying to think out of the box to get water to people.
right. As I recall, Envirogenics did a couple of the early seawater RO plants in Saudi Arabia.
absolutely.
Was Al Kafji and Umluj, was it?
No, it was
No.
Duba and Hackle.
Duba
Yeah.
Hackle.
Duber and Hackle, that's
And
right.
I remember that very well because, we had a healthy competition within Envirogenics among the people that were working on the MSF side and the RO side. There were people that were pushing MSF and the reason for it because there was very little knowledge of RO at the time among that group. But we did Duba and Hackle in Saudi Arabia, one of the first seawater RO projects, both ways, MSF and RO. And I remember that we took the proposals down, and we were talking about 20 suitcases of material. This was for SWEC. And I remember Bob, myself, Herb Steiger, and a few people from the Sojix office spent at least 2 or 3 months down on site. At the time, Sojix was building this big, huge facilities for the Saudi Defense Ministry. And we took one of those villas, and we stayed there and negotiated those projects. And it was decided right there in Saudi Arabia on site that they wanted this to be a seawater RO installation.
I wanted to thank you all for coming, and it's been very enjoyable for me. As I said, I've known all you guys for a long time, and in spite of that, we're still friends. And you've all done very well in your chosen fields, and I wish you continued success. And thanks very much. I really appreciate it.